Ronald Greene. Ronald Greene was killed in police custody effectively in 2019 in Louisiana. It was a stop that was made by Louisiana state troopers. Apparently, Mr. Greene, he was driving erratically. He had run a red light, and then he fled police.
Yeah, he did not pull over.
So just recently, though, the end of last week, there's 46 minutes worth of body cam footage that was released. And it's problematic in parts, as is the lying about how Mr. Greene died by state police initially.
I know, that was horrible. That's worse than the crime, the lie about it, the cover-up.
They suggested that Greene had died after his car struck a tree when that's not what happened. So here's part of the struggle. This is complicated, but as I said, problematic from both perspectives. Obviously, Greene did something to elicit this confrontation with police, but the police handling of this is not without controversy. Here's some of the 7 or 8 minute struggle between Greene and the police as they're trying to get his hands behind his back to cuff him.
I'm scared. Get out of the car. I'm scared. Sir, get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the f***ing ground. He's grabbing me. He's grabbing me. Okay, I'm scared. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back, mother. Let me see your hands. Put your hands behind your back. Give me your f***ing hands. Put your hands behind your back. Taser, taser, taser. Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. Put your f***ing hands behind your back, motherfucker. Put your hands behind your f***ing back. Put your hands behind the back. Look, you're about to get it again if you don't put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. I am sorry. Put your hands behind your back. We done tased you too many times. We ain't tased you no more. Put your hands behind your back. Okay, here I go. Here I go. Let me see. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. We need some more units over here now.
And after he's cuffed, this statement by one of the officers.
You stupid motherfucker. You all right? All over. This guy ain't got f***ing AIDS.
I hope this guy doesn't have blinking AIDS.
And then, again, them talking after he has been essentially sedated, handcuffed and sedated. They're holding him up, waiting for paramedics to arrive. Then they do, and the paramedics tend to him. You hear them talking about the basis for the stop.
I mean, if you would have seen the way he was driving, it was unreal. I don't know
really
how he
thought
kept it on
y'all
the
would
road.
have wiped out in Rocky Branch in the curve. You know where the ball field is?
I was in the tree. I picked him up right in front of the college. He was cruising right there and ran a red light real bad. He started slow rolling right there at 5 point like he's going to stop. And then he just punched us.
So, yeah, they said that he ran into a tree and that's how he died. And the investigator, the ranking Louisiana State police officer at the scene, denied the existence of his own body camera video for nearly 2 years. So, yeah, they should pay for what they did.
Well, again, the case is complicated, but it's coming to light now. And why didn't it in 2019? One of the only people I've really seen write about this case and offer a pretty plausible explanation for the question I just raised is our friend Scott McKay, who's a publisher at the Hayride and a contributor to the American Spectator. He joins us now. Scott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
You're closer to this Ronald Greene case than we are, and so your perspective on the case, the 2-year delay in this coming to public light for discussion and consideration, and why it might have been buried or not generate any, BLM interest back in 2019.
Well, and the explanation for this is going to be kind of depressing, but pretty instructive. And I don't know how many people in the audience are going to scoff at it, which is this happened in May of 2019. 6 months later, there was going to be a gubernatorial election where the only Democrat governor in the deep South was up for re-election and at the time was not seen as the favorite in the race, Louisiana being a red state and all. And the state police in Louisiana, like a lot of other states, is, practically the governor's police force. And John Bel Edwards got reelected by only 40,000 votes in Louisiana, and he got more black votes in Louisiana than Barack Obama did either cycle. So, I mean, he needed the black vote to come out, and if this thing had been out in the open and everybody in the state had known about it, there was no way he was going to get that.
Well, is there proof that he suppressed this information in order to win the election?
Not yet.
That would be huge.
But there are people looking into it. There have been public records requests made, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we wouldn't know anything about that, Laquan McDonald.
Yeah, we live that.
So, with respect to the politics of this first, what about, though, the Black Lives Matter activists and so on and so forth? I mean, they're scanning the country for instances where they can drop Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton into a locality. Why take a pass here?
I mean, my explanation is the only one that I've come across that's even remotely close to explaining it. Mm-hmm. Because this, I mean, look, the one thing about Ronald Greene that needs to be understood, this guy was not like George Floyd, where he'd had 8 felony convictions in 8 years or whatever the number was. He's not like Alton Sterling or any of these other guys who, fought the police on the arrest because they knew, as high as a kite as they may have been, they knew that this arrest, whichever it was going to be it. They were going to get in front of a judge, and a judge was going to go, "You again?" and then throw the book at him. This guy was a barber. Yeah. He wasn't a career criminal. I mean, he made an exceptionally bad decision to run away from a traffic stop, but nobody called the cops on Ronald Greene. I mean, he wasn't committing a crime when the cops chased him and pulled him over or whatever. I mean, this was the classic case that Black Lives Matter says happens all the time and can't seem to find a really perfect exemplar of. This guy was it, and for 2 years nothing happened. And now, I mean, I don't know if there's plans for anybody to do anything in Northeast Louisiana, or if there are protests or riots or whatever. But for 2 years, these guys dropped the ball, and the only explanation for why is the Democrats needed to hold that seat.
Yeah, but there might be money to be had if there's a wrongful death lawsuit, and BLM those race hustlers. They love that. That's why they're attracted to those scenes. So there hasn't been any BLM pushback or Benjamin Crump, Al Sharpton been there?
The Greene family filed a wrongful death lawsuit on this. Mm-hmm. That's already been done. But maybe they didn't call Ben Crump to come file it, and maybe that is something of an explanation that you have to hire the right lawyers who will come in and bring the publicity train. But I mean, you're talking about suing the state of Louisiana, much less, some city somewhere. So there's probably a real big pot of money at the end of that rainbow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it just speaks to it speaks to the political prism through which the Black Lives Matter Marxists and the other new Marxists put everything. So if there is a political benefit to be had immediately, then you take it. If there's not, then you wait for it. If it's going to be indulgence delayed, but ultimately you'll have your indulgence, and this is why a 16-year-old boy shot in the head and killed in Roseland on the south side of Chicago the other day, playing in his house. That's boring. There's nothing newsworthy about the murders du jour that are black on black or minority on minority or minority on white. There's nothing interesting about any of those cases or just the general uptick in violent crime, except to the extent there is a political benefit for the new Marxists.
It's got to either be that or there has to be, some easy money in it. And for whatever reason, they passed on Ronald Greene when folks in that community already knew about this. A year ago, the family got to see that body cam footage, and they filed the wrongful death lawsuit. And you didn't hear about this last year. So, and, I guess they could say COVID is the reason, but, COVID didn't stop a whole lot of stuff last year. So
that's right.
Now, have those officers been fired, the ones that, lied and then didn't turn in their body camera video for 2 years?
The master trooper on the scene plowed his car into a bridge stanchion and died on the day he was told he was going to be fired.
Yeah.
And the other state trooper that participated in most of this was suspended. One of them was just the guy who dragged him. And if you see the video, drags the guy by the shackles on his feet, like his face is scraping along the roadside. Yeah. He got suspended for 50 hours. And then there's another guy who is in jail after a conviction for another police brutality case. So we're not talking about, a super amount of accountability here. And then the other thing is that the colonel who led the state police, who clearly had a hand in the cover-up of this, was allowed to retire last year.
Yeah, no, it's a problematic case. There's no question about it. And now that the body cam footage is out, I'm sure it's getting a new look. Actually, it's interesting to me, though, that even still, now almost a week since that body cam footage has been out, I really haven't seen this picked up. Anyway, I mean, it's interesting. Two conservatives are talking about it, but I haven't really seen this picked up on a lot of the D.C. press corps sites.
I haven't. I mean, I've been looking for it because we covered it at my site, and and it was like, well, okay, what's going on? And nobody's talked about it. I mean, think about this. They made a case out of the McKay Bryant thing, which was like a real obvious, good shoot where the cops were concerned. And yet this thing goes 2 years, and even after it comes out, nobody wants to talk about it.
It's very strange. Very strange. Speaking of very strange, wanted to get your reaction to James Carville signaling an alarm in his op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Democrats are the anti-crime party. He tries to make the case that, this crime wave that happened in Trump's last year is the result of Trump policy somehow. And it's actually Democrats who preside over enhancements in public safety. But the last sentence in his op-ed is really telling in terms of what Carville's real concern is. He writes, Democrats don't pivot on crime. Own the issue or the issue will own you.
Right. Well, remember this. Carville ran out and talked about how the key to Joe Biden's success is that he doesn't talk like somebody from the faculty lounge. And then, said, wokeness is a problem, trying to make the case that Joe Biden isn't woke when this is the wokest administration in world history. He's a liar, like he's a serious liar, but there's a lot of truth to be found in James Carville's lies. Like he will tell you what they're concerned about and what they're afraid of, and then he will give you spin to try to cover it. So all you got to do is try to ignore the spin and focus on the truth in what he's saying. What Carville is saying is that he knows that the Democrats are about to get murdered in the next cycle based on the fact that their party is so bad on crime.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
we got to make up a story to cover this, which that doesn't fly. But he's telling you the truth. He's just lying to get you there.
Exactly. In such a way that only Serpent Head can do. Scott McKay, publisher at the Hayride, contributor to the American Spectator. Scott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, have a great morning, everybody.
You too.
Thanks. Yep, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, it's Terry Melodic. Insurance agents prepare policies, but at Heil & Heil, we deliver great rates with expert personalized service for home, auto, business, and life. Get a free no-obligation review of your current policy today